Elton Sawyer on Sirius XM said, "There's no doubt he rolled early. If this happens at lap 10 or 50 or 300, the call could have been different."
Why are you calling the race differently depending upon
circumstance?
The laps, the rule, and the book. It's black and white. It's on or off. It's yes and no. The question for me now is, I'm fine. You got away with one. You got to try to do everything you can. If you take maybe not these cars, but over the past 50 years in NASCAR, if you really wanted to take all the cars back to the R&D Center, you could find something. There's something on all of the cars that have ever raced a race that aren't going to be past perfect technical inspection. So we've been pushing the limits, and you've got to push the limits as a driver. What does NASCAR need to do now? That's my biggest question, because you and me been doing this a long time, and we would have situations like this where the drivers sort of would discover a loophole, right? The drivers would take advantage or abuse a certain situation, and most of the time NASCAR would then come back and say, at the next drivers meeting or whatever, all right, guys, this is what we want going forward. Do you think NASCAR needs to say anything? Do you think NASCAR needs to clarify or make it understood? Because, all right, for me, all of these years, I always thought you had to go in the box. After what happened the other night and the conversation with NASCAR, now it seems like it's a little loose. It's not, the zone's just a suggestion, right? Does NASCAR need to come in and say anything? Because I know maybe you might not ask the question at the driver's meeting. There's 5 or 10 drivers going, okay, well, what's the deal? Are we going to be able to, bend it a little bit in those scenarios or those situations? And so what would you want NASCAR to do?
I'm not really sure, honestly. I think that we've just gotten so smart when it comes to the drivers. In understanding how to get good restarts, how to take advantage of the system. We've really got educated on that, and it's through people like Josh Wise and whatnot that educate these drivers on, hey, here's the rule, and here's how we're going to get around that rule. If you're P2 or P3, we're going to roll up on these guys, and you're going to carry that speed, and you're going to be able to take over first place entering turn 1. And so as we come up and we keep getting smarter in those situations, then the leader then needs to counter with his own strategy to throw those guys off. So that's what I was trying to do, was throw those guys off and say, well, I know what your plan is. I can see it starting, and I ain't going to let you dictate this restart. And so I was trying to go early in the zone. I was not trying to go before the zone.
Yeah.
And like I said yesterday, I can see that through video and on TV, it looks one way and it felt another in the race car. I can tell you that for sure. I'm looking all over the place. I can barely see anything in my dash, but I can't see that I'm 4 or 5 foot early or whatever it was. Like, it was really small. But I don't know what they can do other than make the zone bigger, because otherwise everyone's just going to continue to creep towards the leader as we approach the zone. And the zone is so small in the sense of, they know that if you go early, we're going to time it perfectly there. If you go late, we're going to time it perfectly there. So it's, other than if you made the zone bigger, and I think they experimented with that at one time and then they cut it back.
Yeah.
I think they had a mess during maybe the Roval or something. I'm not really sure what track it was, but yeah, I don't know what you do other than, it's kind of it's a zone. That's all I can say. It's a zone.
So NASCAR did expand the restart zone, I think middle of last year, or coming into last season, they doubled it. So that would be a great conversation to have. Maybe the restart zone, could go away, or there could be a line, coming through turn 4 that you can't start before that line, but then you have several hundred yards all the way to the flag stand to go whenever you wanted. And to your point, like, you take, if you're the leader of the race, you want the advantage. Maybe they put the leader out there by himself, and you double file behind the leader. So I thought about the restart. Maybe it's not so much NASCAR clarifying what needs to happen going forward with the current situation, current restart box and all that, but maybe they could change it. Maybe it just does need to evolve a little bit physically. The restart zone itself could change quite a bit.
Do we need to be reactive about this, though, or everything is
I worry. Maybe we don't need to get crazy and change shit, but I think that NASCAR certainly has to step in and go, well, we need to clarify what's fair, what's a good restart, and what's not. Because I thought, right,
yeah.
I thought you had to go in the box. NASCAR's now saying, it's whatever, And so if NASCAR doesn't say something in the next drivers' meeting or send out a bulletin to the teams or whatever, I think this could get crazier, right? And then what's going to happen is, and we've seen this many, many times, somebody's going to do exactly what you did 3 months from now and get penalized, right? And then it's going to be, well, what the hell? It's inconsistent. So that's the only thing I'm worried about.
Not if they say we're going to enforce it line to line from now on.
Right.
It's so different than NBA refs, right? When they say in the offseason, the owners or whatever it might be, they want to emphasize on this call this year.
Yeah.
So then they start calling that call. I don't think you bring up a valid point that I think you do. If you say nothing, then it definitely could get out of hand. But if you do say something, if NASCAR says something and says from this point on we're going to look at it closer, then you can't bitch about the call that comes the next time.
I think when they painted those lines on the walls, it was kind of, you couldn't never really specifically say, okay, he went a foot early, because there was no real perfect reference. The line on the walls were just a suggestion, and when they paint them on the track, that's when things get a little more, precise. Take those lines off the track. Just leave them on the wall. Go back to making it a judgment call. If you're going to have the lines on the track, it's just like the commitment cone box. You can't touch that. You can't touch the choose box. You can't go before this line. I mean, that's where, in my mind, when NASCAR put the line on the track, they were making a defined area. And so I'd love them to clear that up.
Very, for sure.
I appreciate him being really fair, and I feel like I'm hopeful that NASCAR will I think the only thing that I need is for NASCAR to say, hey, here's what we expect going forward. Just clear it up a little bit. I'm a little confused. The NASCAR rule book says the initial start and all restarts shall be initiated within the restart zone on the racetrack. Within the restart zone on the racetrack. The lines on the wall and on the racetrack designate the start of the restart zone. If the lead vehicle does not restart in that time, if the lead vehicle does not restart by the time it reaches the exit of this zone, then the starter will initiate the restart of the race. So, that last line's not relative to this conversation.
Quite the opposite of that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's telling me that the start happens in this box, not before it. And like I talked about with Denny, we used to have painted lines on the walls, and exactly where the zone began and ended was debatable. But when they paint the lines on the track, that suggests a defined area. And when you do that along with the wording of the NASCAR rule book, you have a clear definition of a good or a bad restart. And Sunday was a bad restart. You can't hit the choose box or you're going to be penalized. You can't clip the orange commitment cone or the commitment box coming to pit road. You're going to be penalized. You can't pit your car over the line of your pit stall during a pit stop or you're going to be penalized. You absolutely cannot fire before the line of the restart zone. The rule is clear as day. NASCAR should have thrown a yellow or something like that. They give Denny a warning, re-rack them, have the restart all over again.
As of this morning, Elton Sawyer on Sirius XM said there's no doubt he rolled early. If this happens at lap 10 or 50 or 300, the call could have been different.
going forward, we need clear messaging from NASCAR, and that's not helpful, right? To me, that's
the biggest problem.
That's muddying the waters even more. They've got to settle any misunderstanding about the restart rules. I've seen them penalize drivers. They've black flag drivers. They've thrown yellows and re-racked them and gave warnings. Whatever they want to do, they got to react. They can't just let it go. And so, look, I didn't see it.
No one did.
No one did.
Like in the moment when it happened, the race, the race goes.
Well, Fox didn't show it, so you definitely didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but if I'm there in that booth and I'm curious, I mean, I know they only got maybe a minute before the race is over, so they got to act fast. But look, we've got all this technology on pit road that even without a human can designate somebody that's got has an infraction or a penalty on pit road. We got all this technology that should, if we have the for this restart zone, that technology should have been here already.
It's no different than the tech at COTA for track limits. It's the same. They're positioning the car at some point. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
I agree. I mean, it's just like the commitment line on the pit road. You got to do that properly. If you clip it, they're getting your ass.
Right.
This is and if they're going to have that line on the racetrack, I see that as a defined area.
Yeah.
Right.
That is not a suggestion. That is not a and so just come out and say the rule is you go inside the zone.
Right.
Don't make us come after you.
Right. Yeah. I'm of the camp that I don't want more rules on this sport, but there should be some rules that are black and white.
That to come out and say, I think if it happened on lap 10, we'd have called it differently. That makes me even more angry.
Yeah.
Why are you calling the race differently depending upon
circumstance?
The laps.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
The rule book is the rule in the book. It's black and white. It's on or off. It's yes and no. It doesn't change at lap 450 or lap 5. The rule for the rule for engines, bodies, all those things are consistent. They don't change depending upon the lap of the race.
Right. Yeah.
What other rules are ebbing and flowing with the laps of the race?
His car was outside the box, but it was the last pit stop, so we'll give it to him. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, all right. I gotta calm down.
Elton Sawyer said after the race, we reviewed that. We looked at it. Obviously, the 11 was the control vehicle. It was awful close, but we deemed it to be a good restart.
Yeah, that was his comment. That was comments.
That was right afterwards.
Right after the race.
So it's like, that's my biggest. Like, where's the
inconsistent?
Yeah, I just don't think they had a good grasp on.
I don't think
the
they had
restart.
I don't think they had a statement prepared. Is what it sounds like. It sounds like that they didn't have a very good statement prepared for that moment. I believe that, look, these are human beings, and we're all imperfect, and I don't expect everything to go perfectly. Mm-hmm. I get it, and we're gonna miss some calls. We're gonna make some mistakes. It's okay. It's okay if that was a call they missed. Look, I'm not mad. Denny's the winner. He's the winner. I'm fine with that. But tell me that it was a bad restart, it was a missed call, and tell me clearly what the rule is going forward. And do not continue taking me down this road of, it's the end of the race and rules are a little different then, and I don't know, we'd have probably called it differently, and we reviewed it and it was good. And I mean, this seems so simple on what the right thing to do here is.
Is there any validity to, like, Truex potentially laying back, Logano potentially laying back, where they would gain an advantage on this restart? And so it was almost like eye for an eye. The second and third place cars weren't doing what they were doing. Neither was Denny. Like, everyone was violating the restart almost. Is there any validity to that being some of? I'm speaking for NASCAR, but could that be something that went into their reasoning on in the moment why they deemed it to be a good restart?
No. I have not heard one comment about what Denny or what Joey and what the only person that has ever mentioned anything about Joe Logano and Truex and being at a disadvantage is Denny.
Right.
No one else in this conversation is saying, well, you saw Truex laying back. Well, you saw Truex rolling forward, getting taking advantage, getting ready to kick Denny's ass on that restart. Denny launched, and when he got to the restart box, he was a car length ahead. And they did not. People were saying, some people, they got even by the start finish line. They did not.
No, he was out there.
That doesn't even matter. Hey man, I cheated, but you still beat me, or you still
Yeah, but you were almost there.
You're still okay, right?